macroeconomics. In this video, we're going to see how to navigate in Excel, what the layout in Excel looks like, where to find the menu, different options and functions. I'll show you how to copy and paste contents of cells, how cell references work, and then as a small practice example, we have the 1 times 1 in a small table that you could try yourself, but of course I'm going to provide you the solution for that problem. Before we start with the video, I want you to download the Excel file from the Moodle website. Somewhere in the Moodle course you find a section on Excel, and I show you how to download and open the file using the German version, but you will find an English version as well. Just download the Excel file. Please do save the Excel file before opening it. So when you do that in Chrome, it will download the file automatically. I think there are some browsers that ask you if you want to open the file or save it first. Please save it first, otherwise you will not be able to save the progress that you make. When you then open the file, you will see that Excel opens this file in a protected view. It does so with every file that you downloaded from the internet to protect your computer and you from any malicious tools, software parts, and so forth. So do not click that button unless you're sure that the file will not contain any harmful code or like. So in our case, we can just enable editing and open Excel in a non-protective view. So what can I say so far as to the layout of Excel? It's divided into the table, which you see here. Columns are named with letters, rows are named with numbers, and each cell that you click on with a left mouse click is uniquely identified by a combination of a letter and a number. So this, for example, is C7, B3, and so forth. By hitting the left mouse button and keeping it clicked and moving the mouse, you can select a greater area than only one cell. By clicking on one column, you can select the whole column, and the same accounts for the rows. Whenever you have a specific cell selected, you can just hit any combination on your keyboard to enter text into that cell. If you want to escape, you just hit escape. If you want to confirm that this text, whatever you write, is supposed to stay in that cell, then you hit enter. If you, for example, want to edit some text in a specific cell, you can do so in three different fashions. So the first, to enter that text again, would be to simply double click, and then you can edit in that cell directly. The second option is you hit the F2 button, so the function 2. And you will also be able to edit the same text in the same cell. Third, what is also an option is you go to the formula bar on top of the table, so on top of the column names. And you can also edit the same text here. So when I type something here, so make it a double E, for example, it would change the text in the cell. When you have a cell selected, you can alter basically everything about that cell. So you can make the text color red or any color you want. You can make the cell content or background any color you want. You can change the borders, the boldness, the font, everything about the text. What we will see later is that you can also change the appearance of numbers, for example. If you don't want to delete whatever you've done in that cell and reset it back to normal, you see in the menu, which is categorized in several categories from home, insert, all the way through help. It might be that you don't see the categories Acrobat and Thomson Reuters. most probably you will not see these. In every of those categories, you find several subcategories. So for example, in home, you find clipboard, font, alignment, and so forth. In editing, you find a function that is called clear. And you can click on that clear, and a menu will open, and you can select what exactly you want to clear. If I select clear all, it will reset this cell to the standard settings. So let's see what the PowerPoint tells us to do. We're here in project 1, changing of column width and filling of columns. Make the column width with a double click on the right, or change the column width with a double click on the right column line. Mark 2 cells. Use the right lower black cross to fill out the cells, and double click to fill all the rest. So I show you that in practice instead of just reading it out. So what we see here is another important fact, by the way. We have project 1 here all the way through the several projects. I'll show you that how to use the different table tabs once we switch to the next project. So you see here a couple of cells filled with information. And you see here the hash. And by showing this, Excel tells you that something is written in that cell, but it cannot show it due to the width of the column being too small. Now you can, of course, adjust the width of a column. You see they have different widths here. E is smaller than D, or F is smaller than G, and so on. And if you just point with the mouse cursor over the line in between two of the columns, the cursor changes to two arrows from the middle to the left and the right. By holding the left mouse button, you can change and adjust the width of the column, make it smaller or bigger. Alternatively, you can just double click and it will adjust the width to exactly that size that all text can be shown properly. You can also do that and perform the same procedure for multiple columns at once. So you see when I point with the mouse cursor over column F, it changes to an arrow down to select to tell me it will select the whole column if I now click. And if instead of clicking I hold the left mouse cursor and extend the range to, say, column G, I select both those columns, and if I then increase the width of one of the selected columns, it will change the width of all selected columns. And if I double click, it will automatically select the appropriate width of all columns selected. And what we're going to do here is we want to copy that say logical row that we have here, or logical series, starting with 1, 2, and each of you would recognize that the next number is probably 3 and then 4 and 5. Excel can do that as well, so we just select or highlight both of these cells that contain the beginning of the series, and then on the bottom right you see a small was it a rectangle or something. If you point the mouse cursor over it, the cursor will change to a black cross. Now you can click and drag and drop, so you hold the left mouse button and just drag and extend the series to, say, 6, for example. We can do the same for the cells D4 and D5, but instead of clicking and dragging it all the way down to row 9, we now have a limitation by bordering kind of series. So when we now double click on that black cross, it will automatically fill in all the blank cells all the way down to the neighboring end of the series. And again, that not only works for a single column of selected data, but again for also multiple columns. So you can select the cells E4 to G5 and then double click on that black cross, and it will fill in all the series in each of the columns. So I will open the monitor keyboard for you, so you see what I'm going to do. I will show you some shortcuts that will enable you to move quicker and navigate quicker through Excel. So whenever you have selected one specific cell, you can use the arrows on your keyboard to move to the right, to the left, up or down. And you can use the control key, which is this one here. Sorry, I have a German keyboard. So you hit the control key and keep it pressed, and then use one of the arrows on your keyboard. And you jump to the end of the next, or you jump to the next end of a table or of a specific series. Or in case that you're in an empty cell, you jump to the next cell with the content in it. So try that a bit. It's quite intuitive and it will help you to work more efficiently using Excel. The next key that you need to know is the Shift key. So the one that you hit whenever you want to write capital letters. So when you hit the Shift button and one of the arrows, you will expand the range of selected cells. Very easy, and you extend the range in that direction of the arrow pointing that you're hitting. And of course, you can also combine those two shortcuts. So you can hit Shift and Control and then select one of the arrows, and you will extend the range to the next or to the end of written or empty cells into that direction of the arrow that you're hitting. And in our case here, that is not very special, but imagine you have 1,000 rows written with data and you want to jump to the end, then it will save you a great amount of time by just hitting Control and arrow down to jump to the last row or to the last cell with some data in it, instead of scrolling down for a large amount of time. Okay, so we're done with project 1. Let's go to the next one, fill in columns with drag and drop versus a series function. Instead of reading that, I'll just show you what we're supposed to do. So as said, we have several tables or worksheets here in Excel. You can create new ones, and you don't only have to operate in one table. You can operate in as many tables as you want. So project 2 is here in the bottom of Excel in the next table that we are going to select here. And what we're going to do is fill in series. So we use two methods, so we will use two methods. The first is drag and drop, very similar to what we've done or what we just did in project 1. You select this beginning series here, go on the bottom right until the black cross appears, and then drag and drop the series down until we hit 1,000. And that is going to take a while, so you see there's a small note telling me where I'm at the moment. So this is 1,000. And as said, instead of scrolling all the way up, I select the last cell or any cell here, hit the control button and arrow up, and it will bring me to the first cell with a number in it or with any text in it. So you just saw that this method is very tedious, and sometimes you need those rows because you want to make a list, or you want to copy something, you want to count something. Whatever it is that you want to do is it's a very tedious process. And so there's a second method, just to show you that Excel offers already a lot of functions. So you select the first cell where we want to have the number 1 in it. That is cell F10. And then basically the steps are described here. So the first step is you select from the menu category home. On the right hand side there's the subcategory editing and the function fill. And what it is that we want to do is we want to fill in a series. And we want to fill in the series in the column. So we want to stay in column F instead of going down the row 10. It's a linear growth, and we want to have step values of 1, so increase the previous value by 1 each time and stop at the value 1000. Hit OK, and we'll get the series from 1 to 1000. Sometimes you want to do that for 5000 times, for whatever, how many times. And to just check if it stopped at 1000, we hit Control, arrow down, and you see that it stopped at 1000. That was project 2. Let's go to project 3. Copy of functions, drag and drop versus the shortcut Control, Shift, and D in the English version actually. So let's have a look at the project 3. Just change the background of that cell because I think red is very aggressive. And what you see is we have a series from 1 to 100. And there's a 5 written in that cell. But in fact, you see in the formula bar that it's not a constant 5 that is written here, but it is a function or a formula. And as said, you can enter the content of this cell by just double click on it. And you see that this formula says A7 plus 4. And A7 is a variable, kind of a variable. In fact, it's a reference to the cell A7. And to tell Excel that it is not supposed to just write A7 plus 4 in as text in that cell, you start a formula or an equation or a function with an equal sign. And that tells Excel that it's supposed to calculate something. And it's supposed to calculate whatever is written in A7 and add a constant of 4 to it. And we could also change the constant to 45, for example, but we don't want to do that. And there's one particular part about Excel that you want to know, and we're going to get to that in project 4. In fact, it's not written A7, but you can understand this as the cell to my left. So it's a relative reference to a cell or to a position of a cell. So when we copy that, you can also copy that in the same fashion as we did before, and because we have kind of a frame around here, so there's a bordering series, Excel knows where to stop. So you could also go on the right lower end of the cell until the black cross appears, drag and drop it downwards. And you see if you click in one of these cells, it'll show you the cell to my left plus constant of 4. By double clicking, we'll fill out the series until or copy the formula to the end of that kind of section until we have the cell A106 added a constant of 4. So this is the method 1. So you can copy any formula equation by just using that black cross in the lower right corner. What we want to do is I want to show you a second method of how to do that. So I'm going to, or let me hit the keyboard again so you know which buttons I'm pressing. So I will hit the control button and the shift button. So 1 second, control and shift, and the arrow up. And because I don't want to have the full range highlighted, I hit control and down. And what I'm doing is I will delete everything that is in there. So we have now an empty space so that I can just show you the second method. And what I will do is I will highlight the full range down to B106, I think. So I start at cell B106, hit Control, Shift, and arrow up. And now in the cell, the first cell, beginning from the top, there's the equation listed. And I can hit now Control and D for down, like copy that formula down to all the empty cells basically. So by hitting Control D, the formula will be copied downwards into all empty cells, and that was the target of this project. So let's proceed to project 4. See what we have here. In project 4, I'm going to tell you about absolute and relative references. So let's do that first. I told you already in project 3 that this is a relative reference. You see the reference from A7 changes to A8 when I copy the formula to a different position or in a different cell. And this is exactly what we have here. So we want to write a formula that adds a constant written in the cell B6 to whatever is left to the formula cell. So we need one relative reference, starting with an equal sign. The relative reference is the one left to the current cell. You can just click on it. You can also, instead of clicking on it, after hitting the equal sign, hit the left arrow. So we'll just select this cell to the left, and you can move that around using the arrows on your keyboard. Then we type a plus, and we want to add whatever is written in the cell B6. But this is still also a relative reference. So whenever I will copy that equation, it will also move the references. Let's try that. If I copy that by hitting Control C, I click in cell, I don't know, E9, for example, hit Control V. We have relative references to the cell, the left of the current and on top of the current on the equation cell. This is not what we want to have. Instead, what we can do is, let's try it here. Instead of having B6 moving to a B7, we want to have the 6 fixed. So absolute 6. And to achieve that, we can simply put a $sign in front of the 6. Putting a $sign in front of any of the names of a cell, so either in front of the letter or in front of the number, will keep that letter or number fixed. So I copy that downwards. You see the 6 will remain a 6. If I now copy the same equation to the right, what will happen is the 6 will remain a 6, but the B will change to a D. So in fact, instead of B6, this equation says in different words, take the value in the cell left to me plus whatever value is in the same column as me in row 6. You see that here, the value left to me in the same column, row 6. If we want to fix that same column to make it a constant column B, we just write a $sign in front of the B. Now it says add whatever is written in cell B6, and it doesn't matter where this equation stems or is being copied to, it will always reference to B6 and add this value to whatever is left to that current cell. And of course, you can fix any of the numbers or letters of cells in a formula. And there's also a shortcut that you could use is if you select within the formula one of the references and you hit the functional button 4, so F4 on your keyboard, Excel will switch through all possibilities of dollar signs being placed in the equation in that specific cell that the cursor is selecting. Okay, very well. We'll get to project 5 now. Combination of absolute row and absolute column references. The task is to fill in the table of the 1 times 1. The result in the lower cell should be equal to 25, and you're just allowed to type a formula into the red cell. And then you copy the function that you typed into the red cell to all other cells. So what you see here is, by the way, you can change the zoom on the right bottom. You can also hit Control and the wheel on your mouse, for example, or depending on which notebook you're using, you can spread your fingers on the trackpad. So you're supposed to write one formula into this red cell, starting with an equal sign, of course. So I write something like 1 times 1 is 1, of course. Then I hit Control C, highlight all that area here that is yellow, Control V, and you find this is not the solution that we wanted. Because what the equation that I wrote is here, the cell on top of me times the cell to my left, which is not what I wanted. So in this cell, I want to have 5 times 1, of course. I will wait a minute and let you try before I present the solution. Just stop the video if you'd like to do that. So the solution is so the minute is over. If you need more time, then please just stop the video and try a bit more. This is a very crucial part in Excel, so to understand absolute and relative references. So the solution looks as follows. We want to have 1 times 1, but in fact, on the top of our 1 times 1 table, we want to have the row fixed, so these numbers are all in row 5. So I hit the cursor in any neighborhood of this of the reference to C5 and hit the F4 button, so function 4, to fix the 5 and make it absolute. And on the column side here, I do want to stay in column B, but I do want the reference to be able to change the rows. So I need the dollar sign in front of the B for the B not to change. So once I've done that, I copy my formula to the right and then to the bottom, and I find the desired 25 in the bottom right corner. So that was the second video. I'm looking forward to speak about net present value and functions in video 3. Have a great day and see you in the next video.